SOS! They're taking us! I hope that this is not just a cry for help, but that we can alert everyone who's going through this abduction process. Many abductees are placed under a hypnosis process, a type of memory suspension, so that there is no memory of these attacks when people are taken from their homes after the experiments and manipulations.
One night, as often happened, when I slept I had an out-of-body experience, and Leon was waiting for me. He opened a kind of plasma screen in front of me, and I watched it. In addition to that, I was receiving the information by telepathy. He showed me that not only Greys are in this system, but there are many races and different biotypes. The so-called Orion War began for the power to control technologies by races that had not yet developed their own. It was not necessarily an invasion to take control of star systems, as this would happen over time with the usurpation and control of the technologies of those that had already developed them. These Greys, both small and tall, and a caste of reptilians, are somehow trying to circumvent the laws of the universe to safeguard their race, because they are not reproducing like humans anymore, at least since the war between them and the Dracos, for the control of a technological and biological nano-consciousness. By manipulating a radioactive element to control the atmosphere of their planets, creating domes as an intelligent energetic grid, they could teleport within their system and also to other orbs that already had the same technology. This grid, or dome, also allowed mass communication between them as a collective consciousness and gave the possibility of a type of transcommunication where they could access their ancestry that had already ascended. But for this, they paid a very high price, as there was a contamination in the atmosphere of their planets with increasing radiation, which drastically affected the body composition of their inhabitants and the appearance of pathogens, causing cell dysfunctions and a deficiency of embryogenesis, which reduced quite a lot of their population. Gradually, their bodies were modified to withstand the increase in radiation in their planetary systems. In a certain location, in one of the planets of these Greys, there was an element in the biosphere which was manipulated and applied as a nanotechno-consciousness in their biological bodies, increasing their lifespan and their ability to transit with their minds in other bodies created by them as biotechnological avatars. The advancement of this race took such an accelerated proportion that others who were near their planet began to visit them, getting in touch to exchange knowledge and techniques of expansion and manipulation of consciousness. The Dracos were always manipulating other beings to serve them in exchange for technologies and any kind of energies that could be important to them. So they managed to co-opt many races of pirates and sidereal outcasts who serve them until this day. The idea was that all the technologies developed should be in the hands of a single group, the Draconians. So the Dracos, understanding that cosmic consciousness could be manipulated, needed to have all the existing technologies of control manifested in the experiences, which were fractalized from the source and a group of creator suns, so that they could manifest a virus and infect whatever region of a galaxy they chose in order to create an AI that would behave the way they determined, to have control and be recognized by others as gods. After so many genetic mutations that these beings underwent, trying to become a species with high technology, they developed expanded capabilities, to the point of being able to transport themselves in the space/time of the universes, and even dimensions, and use the AI of their system, introducing it into its own DNA as a nanotechnology, and connecting them all into a single network of technological intelligence, like an AI god. With the control of this technology, several experiments began among their own race, first creating a type of warrior species, such as soldiers, to be the military front of their planet, as they were having wars between other factions of their own star system and other civilizations, who began to observe the advancement they were achieving with their science applied to their bodies, which would place them as a more advanced race than their neighbors. This somehow caught the attention of those who were unable to manifest in their cellular structure the same technology that could take them to a quantum leap in capabilities and achievements. So the Dracos and Reptilians, who were monitoring the Greys, started a war to obtain this technology that would make them gods. A group of Greys scientists had a meeting with their Senate and decided to cooperate. They began to develop the experiment together with the first group of Reptilians who reached them and who represented the Dracos. What the Greys wanted was an exchange of technologies, but they premeditated a dark project during the cooperation. They wanted to experience and float in other minds and bodies, not only their biotechnological robots, and with that, usurping and accumulating knowledge from other races in order to expand. They saw in this cooperation the possibility to understand the technologies, mapping the planets and the genetic code of these reptilians, as they had a very great ability to adapt to the most inhospitable regions of the universe. The first idea would be a partnership between them to create a faction that would command an entire part of the universe. So, as far as there was a certain partnership of the reptilians, under the supervision of the Dracos, everything was going well, as the Greys thought they were in control of the whole situation, but they began to realize that the exchange of technologies was not happening. The Dracos articulated and stole as much information as possible, manipulating this technology in their draconian labs, while the reptilians usurped the product of the Greys' ecosystem, which served as the basis for the technology. With the technology developed in their laboratories, the reptilians and a cast of Dracos inserted this nanotechnology into their bodies, and like parasites, entered in some of the minds of the Greys to test the capabilities and communicated with this network of consciousness as if they were of the Grey race themselves. So they began to plan to control all the inhabitants of that planet. At one point, the Greys managed to monitor an access in their conscience network, which was being made by the reptilians. Then, the Greys' Senate was triggered, and the worst was about to happen. None of them could escape the trouble that would occur very soon. Leon kept showing me on the plasma, and talking telepathically to me, that the betrayal had already occurred since the first contact between them, as the Dracos used their reptilian scientists to reverse technology and control the Greys as subservients. Scientists began to observe a change in a group of Greys that no longer responded to network targeting. It was when they realized that they were betrayed, and that the manipulation had been going on for a long time, with the contagion occurring as a parasitic process between minds. The Greys then became alert, as they observed that the reptilians began to manifest in their experiments the increase in their potential of control and network communication, giving them more expanded potentialities. The reptilians had the ability to mutate and the mental strength to hypnotize large crowds, managing to survive extreme situations, but the Greys had not yet developed those abilities. A self-protection program was allocated within the technological nano-consciousness, which was fixed in the cells of the nucleotide, DNA, and that's how the technology was passed down through generations. Greys scientists have been careful since the creation of the project, because if there was an attack, theft, or copy of their technology by any race, this self-protection program would be activated within its genome through a type of programmed virus, triggered by specific waves, causing a break in the continuity of the transfer of technological nano-consciousness. Thus, everyone who had this technology within their bodies would no longer transfer it to their descendants because of the viral program that would sabotage the project without the enemies noticing. With this viral program activated, they would no longer be able to transfer the technology and would eventually stop reproducing, drastically affecting any race that tried to seize this technology or subjugate and enslave them. It had all been orchestrated by the Greys from the beginning as a form of self-protection. Thus, a cast of Dracos and the reptilians began to observe that after implanting the technology in their bodies, in a short time, they were no longer reproducing as before, until there was a decline, not generating more offspring between them, and even trying with a cloning process, they still lost a lot of capabilities. The viral sabotage program in their systems caused more problems, and they started, since then, to create mechanisms to leave this contamination in suspension. Then a group of scientists from the Greys fled out of their star cluster and went to a planet with the potential to keep them safe. This planet had already been mapped by them thousands of years ago. They could land their spacecraft there, which had a pyramid shape. This spacecraft was parked on a satellite, moon, under a magnetic field of invisibility, and other small spacecraft landed in different places on this planet. But unfortunately, what they didn't know was that the draconian agents, using the Greys' reverse technology, were symbiotically floating in the neural network of some of the Grey scientists and their team that went along to restructure environmental compositions within structuring domes of the planet. So, as an active and hidden consciousness, coexisting within them, undetected, the Draco and the reptilians monitored and knew where their main spacecraft was on the satellite and the small ones on the planet. The Greys were safe for a while, but it didn't last long, and as they couldn't reverse the process, because they left this program a long time in their bodies, the viral self-destruct program contaminated everyone. Realizing that if they wanted to survive and keep their race in the experience, they began to look for others who could help them. But the reptilians and the Dracos, having been affected as well, did not allow this contact because they ruled within the star system and no race could approach without their authorization. So the Krays, in a decision with their Senate, decided to solve the problem by themselves, by reprogramming their bodies in order to be able to manifest reproduction as before. Meanwhile, the reptilians were observing everything and using their shape-shifting abilities, transformed themselves into animalistic beings, similar to those that already inhabited the planet, and at one point, kidnapped some of the workers of the restructuring team and took their places. Copying the exact image of their prey, they became these workers and even managed to communicate via their mind network, as they already had the same nanotechnology in them. With that, they entered the work fronts and watched what they planned and passed the information to their leaders, the Dracos, who expected them to find a solution to be able to nullify the effects that were preventing them from reproducing. The Krays, united in an attempt to solve the problem of their genome and believing they were out of control and safe, were deceived to the point that they turned over their projects and were unknowingly working for the Dracos, unaware that they were under their control. What the Dracos didn't know was that the Krays had created a self-destruct mechanism for their labs on their own planet, as they knew that if something worse could happen, a bomb with the ability to destroy all labs and a cleanup program of the archiving crystals by induced direct light would all be destroyed. This would happen if the Dracos tried to forcefully dominate their other brothers or try to violate the laws of their planet. To be continued.